what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Welcome to episode 15 of the Coaches Show. I'm Mike Bianca, coach of the New Orleans Hurricanes, with my co-host Ryan Gray, coach of AC Diesel. Tonight's guest is the old new coach of Houston Heat, Ryan Smith.
Yeah, stick around. As soon as we're done with Ryan, we have a few announcements to make about some changes to our schedule, as well as some of the content we're going to be talking about now that finally we have a season to start talking about, and we can get through and are through with the chaos of this off season. And also thank you so much for kind of sticking through the sort of interview-ish style of things that we've done through the off season, again, to really learn the software, kind of figure out our groove and who we are. But I promise we are who we are, which means you're going to see us doing a lot more analytical things, which we can't wait to tell you about as soon as we're done with Ryan. So we'll bring Ryan in and get started. Hello,
Mr. Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited.
Yeah, man, congratulations on the old new job.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. You know, I had the resume got switched up a little bit, and application process different.
Well, and kind of oddly, I thought you played incredibly well last year, maybe the best year you've had as a player. So it was a little weird when I heard you were coming back. I saw the release that you were coming back as the coach. I was like, man, Ryan seems like he's playing really, really well. I wonder how he feels about it. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me, I usually just play mediocre, kind of being a role player. When you have a lot of talent on a team, there's guys that just got to be role players. So it's kind of what I try to be. My eyes, you can always do better. We didn't win, so that makes it tough. But as far as playing versus coaching, number one reason I went back to coaching is I really don't like putting on paintball gear and wearing it all day. That's really the truth. If we didn't have to wear the pads, I'd be happy. But
you can take those off though in between matches. You just
yeah, I know, but then you got to put them back on. But I enjoy the guys that we play with and have on the team, and I just think it's hard to coach a group of guys like that. So, I know I'm the best out of a lot of people, and the opportunity coming back was good. I think it's great. I'm ready to enjoy it. I do enjoy it, and I want to win. It's not winning is really kind of what turns you in that direction. And I don't think we have all the wrong players. I think we got the right players for the job. I think the combination can be there. I think the structure of maybe some practices and stuff needed to change possibly. And, I guess most professional sports teams, they get new coaches when stuff goes bad.
Right. Well, if you don't mind me asking, walk us through that process. So we finish up the season with a third place finish overall. You were top 6, all 5 events. How did that happen? Did you put it out there? Did you say, hey, I'd like this position, or how did all that happen?
Yeah, I kind of reached out. I mean, my dad owns the team, so it's
right.
Not too much, but I think I kind of reached out on my own. It's just something that, I expressed. Top 6 finishes are good. Top 4 finishes are good. That's mediocrity at the end of the day, right? Like a finals is starting to get towards great, and then with the people that we have and what we've accomplished, I think the expectation of winning one event a year isn't unreasonable. Right. It does take a lot to win more than one tournament. Some of that being luck, some of that being skill. So I think going the time that we did without one, some sort of change has to be made. And who knows, maybe players will get added and players will get removed. That's, something down the road, but the coaching was the first movement to try to sort out getting a W.
Yeah. 2022, second place overall, but no wins. 2023 last year, third place overall, no wins. Fourth place overall in 2021, but you did win. I believe it was Chicago, correct? Yeah. Okay. So
it's, it's kind of an all or nothing sport. Especially with the way the World Cup is, with the double points, everybody's always wanted to win World Cup. And now if you win World Cup, now you're getting a big check and, a bigger trophy. So it's, it's just winning. I don't think nobody wants to lose. So that's what we're
and Houston Heat, you guys are known for that back-to-back 2018, 2019 World Cup wins, that nail biter against Russian Legion in 2019 and beating Impact in 2018 for the Cup. It was some pretty exciting paintball.
Yeah, that was, kind of the pinnacle of my coaching era, I guess. We won one coaching, and then my dad picked up coaching, but I still helped him along the side. So those were two big years, and I think we won some Dallas tournaments in there too.
You did.
There's lots of different types of teams. There's teams that need to play a lot, teams that need to learn a lot, and then there's teams that have great players that just need to figure out the best way for them to put a system together to go win on that field layout. And I just think having an updated, not updated, but up-to-date, playing style and understanding of the game and what it is, I think can make a difference. And I think you see that in the NFL too. A lot of young coaches are coming into the NFL, and there's a relation there. Kansas City Chiefs don't have a young coach, but there's a younger coach group coming into the NFL that's bringing a revivalness to players. I think closer relation and better teams across the board. And Tom Brady retired.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That helped, I think.
I like where you're going with that. You said there are teams that have players that need to play a lot. There are teams that have players that need to learn a lot. And then you started to talk about, you were getting into that aspect of, hey, it's time to change a system or look at a system to put the right pieces in place. And what does that look like for Houston Heat?
I think the structure of our practice might change a little bit. I really haven't even talked to the guys too much about it, but I think just getting people on the same page, getting people in spots they belong, getting people practicing some repetitions, and then just, keeping it light. I think I'm a serious person when I need to be serious, and when guys push me to be serious. And then, I do want there to be a fun aspect of it, because at the end of the day, we have some of the guys that have been doing it longer than, anybody else out there almost. Ryan Moorhead, I think his first World Cup was like 1999 or 2000 or something.
Yeah.
It's like 23 years.
Yeah.
It might have even been before that, but, is keeping everybody in good spirits, high hopes, having that drive. So I don't know, it felt like it was the right decision, and I'm hoping it is.
So as a coach, did you recognize, like you said, you've got a who's who of talent on that roster. And now that you're in that coaching position, I love how you're saying maybe making sure players are in the right position, players are getting the right reps, players are looking at things the right way. I love, this is the coach's show. And I really like that perspective of, are you recognizing, hey, were we grinding gears? Is there something that needs to change now in order to get that performance out of such a great team.
Yeah. I possibly was watching. I can't remember the name of it on Netflix, but it had Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. I don't know if you guys have watched that or not. But you know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I enjoy stuff like that. I don't know if you ever watched it. I think it's The Playbook as well. Doc Rivers on Netflix.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, there's a series of 5. I think it's 4 or 5 coaches. One of them's like a tennis coach. There's Doc Rivers, and a couple others I can't remember. But back to the Nick Saban, Bill Belichick is like Bill Belichick realized what he had. You know, he had great players, and he said it in there is like great players can't overcome bad coaching. So it's just one of those things that I'm going to try to be the best coach that I can. And if I put the players in the wrong place or I make the wrong decisions based upon stats, that falls back on me. But you got to give them the opportunity. And I think that's what I'm really looking for. I feel like that's what I did good when I coached before. There's only really one match where we played X Factor, where we just got absolutely shut out. And every decision I made was the wrong one. And I even looked at the guys after that and was like, there wasn't anything they could have done. Like that was the perfect example of bad coaching. Like if I can't get them somewhere to live, you know, they can't go make decisions and be great on their own or with their teammates.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I relive that match over and over, and I couldn't even tell you what year it is because I'm so bad at remembering all that. But I just remember that X Factor game that we just got mercy ruled, and I was like, it's like I blinked my eyes and it happened, and I was like, this cannot happen again. And that's the example of, you know, the good great players can't overcome anything that you do if you put them in that type of situation.
No, I appreciate that type of accountability. Outstanding.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I do yell at them often and tell them how they're messed up.
Well, for sure, right? That's your job. But I also, again, just like Mike mentioned, you know, I love that you're holding yourself accountable in the same way, right? It's because we make mistakes. Yeah. We make mistakes. And so, you know, if we expect, and I say this, you know, often, like you want your group to be, you want them to play as perfect as they can play, right? Yeah. That doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, but it's as perfect as they can be. And the expectation should be the same for us, right? If I expect you to be as perfect as you can be, I'm making that same commitment, you know, and I want to be held accountable in the same way. If I make mistakes, if I don't own it or I don't see it, I want to be told, hey, coach, you screwed this up, right? We missed this. You missed this, and this is something you need to pay attention to next time. And I want that feedback, right?
Yeah.
I love a couple of things, though, that you said I want to go touch on. One, you kind of started talking about structure of practices, and you kind of broke those 3 types of teams down, which I think that's really critical. But then also recognizing very quickly or identifying very quickly that Houston Heat is maybe that group who is just a really good group of players that instead of the repetition of just playing points, it needs to be a more quality-based practice on the things that the team or the group or maybe an individual player needs to work on in lieu of just, we're going to go out and play 50 points, right? We're not like Mike and I both kind of talk about this. Like, number one, we don't love to play points. We really we both, and it's why we work out together a lot. We like to do drills. You know, we want to do things that are going to enhance the things we do well and then repair the deficiencies at the same time. And then also have some fun in the process, right? Because, you know, at the end of the day, this is still bath beads at 200 miles an hour that we're shooting at each other. It's a pretty stupid game, right? Yeah. It's pretty silly. And if we don't make it fun, then we're going to have problems. And especially, Ryan, a group like yours, where you have so many veteran players that need to remember this is fun. This is fun, you know, and if they're not having a good time, they're probably not going to play well.
Yeah. And part of the veteran players thing too isn't always, you know, coaching or telling them what to do. It's just making sure that all of them are coordinated, because they all got their own agenda. They're all got different ideas. They all have a different vision, but they're all great ideas, right? It's just putting great ideas together.
Boom.
Yes.
But I think we're on the, as far as structuring practices, once you get to more of an elite level, you like you guys are, you're practicing smaller things. It becomes a game of inches instead of feet. Whereas if you're kind of fighting to be that wild card of a team, repetition is probably good for them because they need to figure out what they want to do and what works.
Yeah.
But just as far as, how hard to go into a bunker, if you can run and shoot into a bunker, just, how low do you need to crawl? This, but also saving your body because the way we do practice and play and the amount of time that we have to do it in isn't very conducive, and stuff's always changing. So it's a learning battle always.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, with the exception of Connor, your roster is not a bunch of young guys.
You can say old.
Well, they're older guys,
Wise,
right?
Because like 41.
They're wise. They're wise. Wiser.
Yeah. So, and I think that's really important.
Other than Connor, before Connor, I was the youngest on the team.
You're right. Yeah.
Which is odd because I feel like I'm older than half of them.
Well, so it also, though, like going back to that kind of structure, and we mentioned this a few shows ago, where the Russians really have it right from that perspective, where they go out, they play for like 3 hours, then they go and they talk, right? Because once you get to a certain point where your guys are, it's way more about what's happening in the mind and also being able to funnel those ideas that everyone has. Because you also said, and I love this, they're all right. We talked about that with Marcelo and with SK. You got all of these really good ideas and everybody has them. And sometimes our job isn't necessarily to change any of them as much as just getting them all to funnel into one usable piece, right?
Yeah.
Where we can like, hey, we're going to take this from your idea and this from your idea and this from your idea and this from your idea. And we're going to put all that together and we're going to try to make it work. Right.
Yeah.
And that way everybody feels valued. And especially with a group, you have a lot of egos on your team, right? With the exception of a couple of guys, you got a lot of big egos. And so that's another challenge you get to deal with.
Yeah.
And getting everyone to buy in to that one methodology isn't always easy, but when it happens, it's beautiful.
It's special for sure. You feel it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Ask your famous question, Ryan. It's my favorite question. So ask Mr. Smith that question.
So what grade would you give Houston Heat's 2023? So the whole season, you go through each event, relatively consistent, except for your World Cup finish. You sort of finish where you start, right? Like you want to get better as the year goes on, but relatively consistent. What grade would you give your group's performance in 2023?
A B up until World Cup and then an F.
Okay. Well, let's include World Cup. What grade would you give the whole season?
A D.
A D.
Oof.
Oh man.
A D.
Like we got a second place, but I mean, it's
great.
You spend
Expectation.
6-8 months. You spend 6-8 months of your life to just bomb it at the end. That in my books, that's it's like I didn't go to college, but I went to high school, and that's like doing work all year, right? Test after test after test after test. Oh, okay. I'm at a 95 in the class, and now my final exam is worth 40 to 50% of my grade, and you bomb that. Well, guess what? You're gonna go retake the course.
See, I feel Mr. Smith on this 100%. That's I feel you on that 100%.
So it's was it a great year on paper for some teams? Yeah, but I don't think anybody left the World Cup feeling like, oh yeah, we absolutely crushed it.
Right.
Because we didn't.
Right.
I think
Perspective is key.
All the hard work that was done was taken for granted at Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we just get to make Sunday type of deal. So
Yeah, there's a lot of teams though that would kill just to make every Sunday, right?
Yeah, I know.
And that's something that Heat can say. I don't think Heat's missed a Sunday in ever. I mean,
No, we missed
I mean, since
coverage.
2016, I don't think you guys have ever missed a Sunday.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I think there's probably one before 2016 somewhere.
Yeah, 2021 NXL Sunshine State.
Yeah.
Oh, you got 11th. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you turned right around and won the next event, though, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a learning experience, right?
Yeah, we just hope that World Cup's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I think the guys are excited. I think hopefully it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air, season being done, coming back, everybody getting together.
So speaking of everybody coming back, like what, other than, changing coach, is there any other changes, that we should expect to the roster or anything before we head into Las Vegas? Or you guys, everybody stayed, same group, other than, again, coaching change, and you're going right into Las Vegas with the same guys?
I don't think we're getting anybody.
Okay.
Middle people are hard to find.
Yeah.
But I have not fought for anybody. 10's nice for practice. 8's probably really the best number if you have the right 8 for a tournament. It's kind of always been my belief. Now, don't get me wrong. I've used all 10 guys at a tournament, and that can happen at any time. But as far as a flow of how I like things, 8's probably like the perfect number. But I can't. There's no way that I could really think of that I'd want to try on our team. I'm open to suggestions.
Well, I'm not going to give you any. I think you guys are good.
I'm not either. You guys are already dangerous as it is.
Well,
But I want to explore that a little bit. As a coach, I like how that's a fascinating statement to me. It's really hard to be on this team, and that's, to me, that speaks to culture. And this is something that Ryan and I talk about obsessively, is the culture. And I mean, if you were to describe the Houston Heat culture, besides a culture of always being in the hunt, I mean, how would you describe it? And what would a player have to encompass in order to fit into that culture?
Oh man, we're a pack of hyenas. We're like coyotes. What you see at the tournaments is tame, but like we're just always making fun of each other and heckling one another. And if you can survive hanging out with us, then you'll be all right. But
yeah, okay.
I think you got to be pretty strong-willed too. Willing. Everybody wants to. You're gonna be told how to play when you come to it for our team by everybody. But that's a bunch of big-headed, alpha type, big shot players, and they're not doing it to be mean. They're doing it to try to help you. But when you're the new guy and you have 9 other guys telling you how to do the same thing 9 different ways, it is overwhelming, and it can kind of take away from what got you to that place originally. So,
but they're speaking from a position of authority, though, because they've been there, they've won, they've done it. So, I listen to people like that.
Yeah, and sometimes listening is good, sometimes it can be bad. Sometimes I think after watching new guys come into teams, they got there because of something, but like the coach wants them to play and be them, but the teammates kind of want to help them because they feel obligated to. So it's kind of like a little battle on, like, that's why some players can end up staying great, because they fight through it and they're like, oh, I'm going to go do what got me here. And some players, can't take the 9 different opinions. They get all brain flustered, and then it's like, wash and thrown to the side.
Right.
So, if the right person came along, I wouldn't be opposed. I'm not opposed to it at all.
So, but there's no plan to make any changes. So for
for
Las Vegas, at least, we're going to look the same.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So Do you keep all your own stats? Like, do you get to the stands at 8 o'clock in the morning and start watching games and watch games all day? Or do you have a stat guy that's going to sit in the stands with you or for you and do all that kind of thing?
I'm going to sit in the stands more this year. The stands aren't that great to watch from.
You look so excited about it too. I like that look when I said stand.
I'm kind of excited to do it if it's a good vantage point. But when I was coaching before, I would go on Go Sports and I would stay up probably until 12 or 1.
Yeah.
And like I would watch everything with the guys. And then after we played, I would stay up and dink maps. And I probably need to try to do it faster so I could talk with the guys the night before. And then I'd kind of conglomerate something and then present it to them in the morning.
Good.
Because it's just like I did enjoy having it, rewinding through, pausing, getting to see things that I wanted to try to see or find without, I can't give too much away because there's certain stuff that I like to do.
Sure.
But
and Go Sports is so much better now. Like with the overhead views and some of the things they're doing, like there are some things, especially like the way they were doing things at World Cup. Like there were a lot of things that you could see on Go Sports that you certainly could not have seen from the stands.
Yeah.
So
I think
but at the at the other events, there were a couple spots where you could stand like in the corner and you could see the whole thing, right? But if somebody like Joey really likes to get up there quickly and take that like one really good spot, so you gotta like either go sit and talk with Joey and stat while he's statting, or try to find a different place to do it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, you know, we were talking. There's the separation there used to be between good and bad teams. There's that gap that's mended now, right? Where it's like, you know, this team's not going to win a tournament, but they could be a home wrecker for another team that has a chance to win, right? So we have a lot of these home wreckers now, and very few bottom feeders, and then we have the top tier teams. But it's like, because of the home wreckers have grown, you know, it's not statting one team now. Now it's usually statting both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you don't know now who you may see on Sunday morning.
Yeah, and then with the wild card, you know, you
just don't know. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about that before we got on the show, and I'd like to revisit that conversation now since you brought it up. So when you're talking about there being less separation, what do you think is attributed to that? You know, we touched on it a little bit before. Why do you think that gap between the bottom and the top has? I mean, it has shrank, right? But we still do have really the top 4 to 5 teams are pretty consistently the top 4 to 5 teams, right? And then you kind of have the middle tier, which are pretty consistently the middle tier. And then you kind of have the bottom tier, which does sort of change a little bit based on teams selling away or whatever the case may be. What do you think attributes, let's just say the 16, right? What do you attribute the gap closure to?
I've heard, you know, we talked about it earlier. I've heard that top tier players are getting a little worse or, you know, staying the same, and bottom tier are getting better. However you want to look at it, that, you know, those two come together. I think experience, I think just the competitiveness of the game, you know, competition breeds competition. And then I think, you know, you can attribute it to a Notorious, a Hurricanes, of guys that have come out of the semi-pro, won a match, won 2 matches, won 3 matches, made a Sunday, and stuck around. And that's a confidence, right? That's a swagger. That's nothing that, you know, a team can just show up with. It's something you have to kind of earn slowly. It's like, okay, you know what? We can run with these guys. Okay, now we can beat these guys. Okay, now can we make a Sunday? And it's whatever work and, you know, system they have to get them there, and then they stay there, and then that becomes, you know, where the competition breeds competition. It's like, now, okay, now, you know, can a Blast camp buy their spot and stay up there? Can you know, the AC Dallas, can they stay up there this time? It's it's creating that, winning culture that people are trying to have. And that's,
so
that's
when you say AC Dallas, you're talking about fit, right?
Or fit. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're
We just don't, I don't want to confuse people.
Yeah. Fit.
Yeah. Good points, man. Seriously. And as we kind of said at the beginning too, and, I've said this multiple times, I think this will be, one of the first years that we're going to have real parity, right? And maybe not at the top 5, right? Maybe those top 5 are still the top 5. I know that there's a lot of teams that are hungry to try to get to that place and are working really hard to be there, which is that competition breeds competition thing you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I think that 2024 is going to, and I should say, I hope that 2024 is going to be the most competitive year of professional paintball we've ever seen, right? I don't believe, I'm sure that of the 20 teams, one is going to have challenges because that's just the nature of the way it works. But even that one that has challenges is probably better than the one that just left, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the team is going to be better, right? I just think that there's going to be a gap there between where that 20th place team is and possibly the 19, 18, 17, right?
Yeah.
But I do think those other 19 teams are going to be good, and it's going to be an interesting season. Again, I hope it's going to be a very competitive year where we're going to see some pools that will be some 2-2s and 2-2s and 2-2s and 2-2s where there's going to be a lot of coaches sweating, doing math, trying to figure it all out.
And I think, like you said too, that top 5 might stay close. 4 and 5 and 6 might interchange overall. But I think the top 5s at tournaments could be a lot different this year as far as, just any given day that somebody could win. The consistency might still be there for the top 5 overall, but as far as I don't see why an 8th and a 4th, those don't swap around tournament to tournament.
Sure.
I totally agree. I wanted to piggyback on that a little bit because I like your approach to this and your thought process. And I kind of want to jump on that a little bit because I think that's such an interesting topic. Why have we seen this increase in competitiveness? And it's like I said earlier when we were chatting, I feel like the game has become more academic. Coaches and players are starting to realize that there are processes and methods that you can implement, given your roster, that roster versus a layout, playing to tendencies against other teams. Without any type of change, there's no innovation, there's no creativity or incentive for improvement. So those who initiate change, right, recognizing the fact that, hey, we are goal oriented, we're this, we're that, we've got to change this and that, they're going to have a better opportunity to manage the change. That if you want to stay competitive, it's inevitable. You have to do it. You have to adapt. And adaptation is the key to paintball. Whether it's practice, adaptation at practice, adaptation in the match, adaptation during the point, doesn't matter. Adaptation is the key to success in paintball. And I think what you're seeing, you're starting to realize that teams are starting to realize that this is what it takes. Ryan, you said it's a roadmap. People are starting to see the roadmap more. And I concur. I think there's some roadmaps out there that have been laid by great teams like Houston Heat and Dynasty and AC Diesel. And if you just pay attention and look and listen, coaches and divisional players, it's there. You just got to implement it. You have to stick to you have to do what's required to be successful. And if you're not willing to put in that kind of work, well, guess what? Paintball is going to be a really expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very painful.
Yeah.
Very painful.
Yeah. And I think, with the way the competition of players is now, I've always kind of told people this, but never took it super serious because it's hard to justify in the sport. But good coaching is more of a game changer now than just players. It used to be, players could go out there and make a difference. Now it takes more than one. You look at basketball, it takes 3 guys to win a championship. You can have one good player to 2 good players. That's going to win you a game. That's going to win you a playoff spot. That could win you, all the way up to a conference championship. But you got to have, 3. Hockey, you got to have 3 guys on the ice that are in union with one another. So once you get that, the next step there is you got to have somebody that thinks like them, wants to think like them, wants to think with them, wants to be part of them, and then help them get what they want other than winning, but, playing together and doing what they want and seeing the game how they want to see and be creative with them. So I think, having, as far as a divisional team, some of these teams last camp notorious, all you guys, the Hurricanes, have had a good coach. That's going to be something that's consistent because players will come and go, eventually they do, whether it's finances, personal problems, health problems, whatever it is, players will come and go, but a team can stay consistent if they have a good coach. And the San Antonio Spurs is, a great example of that. Tim Duncan has a ridiculous amount of championships with one team.
Yep.
One of the best coaches in the game, Popovich. They went on a great run, but nobody ever talks about them because they weren't breaking scoring records. They weren't breaking whatever it is, triple doubles or whatever. I don't know what basketball term stats are, but every time you turn around now, there's somebody breaking a new stat of some stat of some stat.
Yeah, they were the greatest team that won championships kind of in strings.
They were the best
that I've seen in my lifetime. Yeah.
Best at passing the ball. And then Golden State took the Spurs and superstars and put them together. And when Golden State won their first championship, they moved the ball like the Spurs. They just had better shooters.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I think coaching is going to be the next iteration of the sport, and I hope that becomes it because I think that will create and breed more players and keep it around longer.
That is such a good segue into the question that Mr. Gray was about to ask you when he spoke to one of your players. Isn't that right, Mr.
Yeah.
Gray?
So, yeah. Before, so as soon as it came out, like I said, I that you were going to be the coach. I sent you a message right away to get this on the schedule. And then I started sending some messages to your players and just was trying to get kind of their feel and touch. And you mentioned Ryan Moorhead earlier, and I've known Ryan for, a very long time. My first World Cup was in 1997, and I've kind of watched Ryan sort of grow up in professional paintball. And so I reached out to Ryan, and we kind of chit-chatted a little bit, and he made a comment that I thought was incredible because of his lineage. He said, Ryan Smith is the best coach I've ever had. Like, I'm so excited that he is going to be our coach. I haven't been this confident in years. Hearing that,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, how does that make you feel? When a player like that, who's had some pretty fantastic coaches in his lifetime as a paintball player, how does that make you feel?
He's had fantastic coaches and fantastic accomplishments.
Mm.
I mean, it warms me because the amount of time I've known him and spent around him, and watching his daughter grow up and him get married, being part of all that, it's special. It's just, I don't do anything special, and I don't think a coach is there to do anything special, but you have to have the understanding of what each one of your players wants to do. So it's like with him, I would deem him as a free spirit of a player. Like, he's the guy that'll run through something that you like blink an eye and be like, how did that even happen? Why? Nobody even does that, right? So it's just helping him be allowed to do that. It's not telling him how. So I think maybe because I don't have like a cookie cutter system that he thinks that, but I mean, I'm honored that he thinks that, and I love it. And that's very special. And I look forward to getting to coach them again. I look forward to getting to coach all of our guys again, and the guys I haven't, Tyler and Connor. So it's a breath of fresh air. It's a revival. It's great to hear, and it's confidence, and we just have to transfer that into some wins.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. So we've talked about kind of the philosophical approach to a lot of this, right? We've gotten a little bit of an insight on how you approach things and how you think about things. What can we expect from Houston Heat in 2024? Have you set some goals? Do you have some expectations?
I have a list of stuff in my notes of kind of what I want to do and implement, some goals, but it's something that if you win, when you win, and everybody was part of it, that feeling. And if you lose, and you can't look at any of your guys and not feel disappointed, or they look at each other and not feel like they let each other down, that's when you put it all out there, and a couple of things might have not gone your way. Because at the end of the day, you're going to, I guess, unless you're Dynasty recently or Tampa Bay, you usually lose more than you win. But everybody's goal is to win. So the first thing is I'm not a shoot for the future kind of guy. It's like my goal is to show up day one, everybody positive attitudes, feeling good, and just start going to work. Whatever they want to do, however long they want to go, whatever they want to put into it. I don't have a physical job. I got a mental job now. And if I'm just there with them, listening and putting those guidelines in play, let them do everything. So it's whatever they're willing to put in, I think, is what we're going to get out. And that's my goal, is to get them to put everything in, all or nothing type of season. It's kind of what I'm shooting for.
It's a great answer.
I don't know if that answers or not, but
yeah, it's a great answer.
No, it does. It's a great answer. Absolutely.
You've seen guys at the end of the day. I've been tired at the end of the day. It's not like I have an excuse to be like, oh yeah, I'm tired, time to go home. So whatever, my goal is to get them prepared however they need, seen fit for a tournament. And I think if you can do that, you have a really good chance of winning.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about systems earlier in referencing a couple of coaches. And I think, and I forget his name, the goofy guy who's the coach of the Dolphins. A lot of people, always had pulls his pants way up around his ankle or his knees, and real goofy, right? But his players love him, right? Yeah. And they want to play for him, right? Not just do the things that they're supposed to do, going through the motions. And sometimes I think coaches coach a lot out of fear and those kind of things. And he's sort of taken the exact opposite approach and has become he's like their buddy. He's kind of bebopping around, while the guys are working out, and sort of talking trash with them and those kind of things. And I do think there's something to be said for altering sort of that status quo, right? And bringing in kind of, as you said, a new system that's maybe does have a more youthful feel, right? Where it's we're going to pull some of this pressure off and pull some of this stress away, and let's just have fun, right? Yeah. Which is something that I think Dynasty does really well. When we've kind of referenced this a few times on the show, when you watch them out and around the venue, they're having fun. They're playing the splatter gun thing, whatever that stuff is called. And they're running around and being silly and but you catch them an hour before a match, they look different, right? They're incredibly focused and they're ready to go to work. And that's it. Yeah. Gel blaster. Gel blaster.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I think they've done a really good job at harnessing the fact that we're playing this is a kid's game, right? We're playing it. We're shooting bath beads at 200 miles an hour at each other. It's silly. And remembering that it is silly and that it's supposed to be fun, I think is one of the reasons that they do really well. Obviously, they're incredibly talented. They work really hard, but I think that they go into each match and each event with the idea that, hey, we're going to win. We're going to win. And so they just have so much fun doing what they're doing because they don't think there's any other way. It's almost like they're surprised if they don't win, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is the culture that we should all be creating roadmaps to get to, right? Like that's the culture. That's where we should be trying to get to. So I think that's great, Ryan.
Kind of the route that I'm trying to get back to is the atmosphere of that. And, it's a snowball effect. You win one, it starts, winning two is what's next, and it kind of becomes obtainable. You get bit by the winning bug, and keep that rolling.
Yeah. Really hard to win 3 in a row.
It is very hard to win 3 in a row.
I mean, it's really hard to win 2 in a row. Like there were 2 teams out of 20 teams last year that won tournaments. It's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, up until not that long ago, I think there was only like 4 or 5 teams that had even won an NXL. Since it's
actually, there's 6 that have won an event in the last 10 years, I believe. Infamous, Heat, Dynasty, Tampa Bay Damage, and there's one more.
Impact.
Russians, maybe? Oh, Impact.
There's more now. But for like the first 5 years, there was like 3 teams that won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
Very difficult. So I look forward to it. I think it's going to be exciting. I'm glad to hear Ryan's happy about it. I hope all the other guys are as joyful about it. I'm a person that doesn't bother them too much. I'll call them and ask them how they're doing. But as far as like paintball talk, I don't know how many people know this, but like we talked about earlier, is I don't have the Instagram app or the Facebook app. So I called.
He doesn't
Sam,
have
like,
the Twitters.
Yeah, I called Sam like 6 weeks. I still have the accounts, but I don't go on them. Like I have to sign on to Safari. So I called Sam like 6 weeks ago, and he like was telling me about the paintball world, and I didn't believe him when I found out that like Blast Camp got a spot, and like I can't even remember what else happened. Like Urena left Dynasty. And, I found out that Devin was going to Revo. Sam was telling me all these things, like J-Rab went to the Russians. And I was like, I felt like it was April Fool's. But he was out here like pranking me. So then I logged onto the internet. Rumor mill is true.
Yes.
I'm somewhat envious of your capability to do that, actually.
I was just about to say, you miss so much, but the reality is the peace that you get from not having those things on your phone is probably
incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that stems another path, but I spend too much time on it. Actually, we talked a little bit about me flying. I'm a licensed pilot. Scary. But I like when I turned Instagram and Facebook apps off, I like went to the post office one day and I was by the airport and I was like, oh, well, let's use this time to learn how to fly an airplane. So I started watching YouTube videos on flying airplanes. And then, like 3 years ago, I got my private pilot's license. Now I'm instrument rated and I fly around the state of Texas and send a drive.
See, kids, put the phone down and you too can be a pilot.
Yeah,
That's
shoot.
I'm serious. That's such a great story.
Yeah, it's fun.
Love that.
I tell everybody to go do it.
Yeah, put the phones down. Let's roll. Pick up a paintball gun.
A lot of people will make money off of those phones. Keep it up, kids. It's not going to be me.
Yeah.
Same.
You missed a lot.
Yeah,
you missed a lot. And it started early. It started early.
You missed this show.
Yeah, I did. I heard Aftershocks coming back. Like Sam told me that. And I was like, wow.
You missed a lot of moves. You missed a lot. It's but they're all hopefully done now. Hopefully we're done and we're ready to move into Las Vegas with a little more calm and stable league. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know that I've ever seen one this chaotic ever. Yeah. So it's exciting though. It kept so much conversation going through the off season because it also didn't happen kind of all at once.
Right.
You know, I kind of left Notorious right at World Cup. And then there was a pretty good break where things really didn't happen. Like, I think maybe one or two moves occurred in the first few weeks. You know, the J-Rap thing was pretty early. I joined AC Diesel. We picked up Cody Mikowski. And then it kind of went dead again for a little while. And then it was just like this explosion of things that occurred, like with all of the moves from Revo to the Ironman to the Blast Camp thing occurring, and then Bears and NRG combining camps. I mean, it was just like, and all of that happened within like a 3-week period. And then we had like a week where it was pretty calm again, maybe 2. And then the Aftershock thing, like the buzz of what the roster, because it happened, right, where LVL sold as soon as, and it was already in the works, it sounded like, before Danny left. But, you know, Danny goes to Dynasty, and then it blew up a little bit again when the Aftershock, and it wasn't Aftershock when it was done. It was like Todd bought it. And so then there was a couple of weeks, right, where there was this like waiting to find out sort of what the brand was going to be. And then as soon as it was Aftershock, then you had all of this new buzz creating not only around Aftershock, but what is this roster going to look like, right? And who are the players who are going to defect from potentially top teams that are on them? And then those dominoes begin to fall. And it was like, okay, now X Factor, you know, makes a couple other dominoes fall. And then, you know, it's just been, it has been nonstop. Again, I think we had like a 2-week break and then another 2-week break. And otherwise it has been pretty chaotic this offseason.
Yeah. And I think it's cool to see well, I don't know what teams sell for, but I think it's cool to even have, you know, that saying, you know, in our sport now, you know, one team selling to another. I think that option's great. I think it could be beneficial as long as it's somewhat affordable, whatever affordable is.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's, you know, it becomes a cool story. It becomes a cool media gig. It attracts things. I think it's awesome. Judging from the sound of all the craziness, it sounded like it was a great time. Entertainment.
Yeah, I guess. Well, let's talk about your bracket for Las Vegas. So you have Baltimore Revo, ML Kings, Seattle Uprising, and Paintball Fit. So to be clear, Revo, mass chaos occurred. ML Kings, pretty good amount of chaos. Cut 3 guys. Harris Hussein buys half of the paintball team. So he's a 50-50 owner with Charlie now. I don't know if you knew that, but a little chaos there too.
Added three up and coming players from the Florida scene.
Nice.
Yep. So a little bit of chaos there. And then Seattle Uprising, 0 chaos. Added Shane Howe, a couple of new guys to help coach. One of those being Tyler Machad, who's been around for ever and really smart guy. And then Paintball Fit, right? So a brand new team coming in. Baltimore Revo, who will look different. ML Kings, who will look somewhat different. And then really the only mainstays there is you and Seattle Uprising.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. How do you feel about your bracket?
I mean, I think out of all of them, it's probably one of the easier ones, if you want to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're all difficult. We lost ML Kings last year, right after we took Connor. So, we shouldn't have. We've lost to Revo, whether they have good players or bad players. Paintball Fit being they have experience in the pro division. They won semi-pro. They're kind of like a Hurricanes type of style. Like they play good team paintball and they shoot really good off the break and then they capitalize on it. And then Uprising is just always a close game. I mean, our team jokes about it all the time. It's like if you break it down statistically, they probably have the most 1-point games and overtime games out of any team.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, I am a fan of them every year. and every year they let me down by 1 point. It's like, what is happening? Like, if you guys would just like, can you go out, win the first 2 points and just keep that margin? Just go win the first 2 points.
So I think, one thing I'm just going to try to get our guys on the train of like, let's stay in our lane.
Yeah.
Let's not be concerned about other teams. Let's stay in our lane. What we need to do, how we need to do it, how we're going to go about doing it, and make it work from there.
That's right. Dictate the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's good players out there. There's a lot of good players out there. And if they were blindfolded and they didn't know who was on the other end and they just gave it their all every time, they would, you would have a pretty good chance of winning. But it's that little bit of time where you slack off and you play down. It's that little bit of time where you just, say, I'm going to go one step slower when maybe you shouldn't have, or one step further when maybe you shouldn't have. So it's, finding our lane, staying in it is what I'm focused on. So I think the bracket's obtainable to come out on top. But I do respect
really, from a coaching perspective, you have a great opportunity here because you really don't know what Revo is going to look like. You really don't know what ML Kings are going to look like. You really don't know what Paintball Fit is going to look like. You have an opportunity to put your group in a place to do exactly what you just said. Hey, we don't know any of them, right? The only one we kind of know is Uprising. We need to play every one of these teams the way we play. Just be us and we'll be fine. Like,
and they kind of have the upper hand because they know what we're going to do and what we're capable of.
Yeah.
So
they're going to try to play up to you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's that, that mental game that, stay in your lane, come out full effort. And a lot of guys talk about how they want to smash teams, but those days are going out the window. Like, you got to learn how to buckle in and play a 2-point game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Smashing teams now is 4 points. If you beat a team by 4, that's smashing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks too, because we live in a game where if you lose 1 point, you're giving one away to them and you're taking one from yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you got to go catch up to 2 to get back up.
Yeah. What did you say at the beginning before we got on the show? You said it's no longer a game of feet; it's a game of centimeters. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about like the tiers, some guys, they got to work hard and get repetition to have a chance to get there, to learn different ways to grow as a player. And then you get the elite that they get the repetition, they figure it out faster, and then they turn those feet into inches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
there it is.
It's getting to buckle down on, what are the little things that'll make a bigger difference.
Right. Love it.
And that's kind of, the I guess where it takes like the ideas of your players and figuring out what's obtainable and what's not based on those small differences.
There it is. Realistic goal setting. Yep. Love it.
Great. Really smart.
Players got the imaginative mind. They're the ones that are always like coming up with the crazy ideas and, being unrealistic. It's like, okay, guys, bring it back down here for me. So we can work on the other stuff.
Yeah. Right.
He's talking to you, Brent.
Micro. Let's get back to the micro.
Yeah.
If I could tell you some of the shit that Cody Mikowski told me, like right as we brought him onto the team, like he'd sent me this message, wanted to talk to me about something, and I called him and he's like, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, maybe let's talk about that later." Like later. Yeah. All right, maybe. Yeah, like, hey, great idea. It's not a great idea.
What's tough too, players want help, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
it comes from a big place, right?
Yeah.
Going back to that Belichick, Nick Saban thing, so the big challenge for them, right, for Saban is he basically has a new team every year, and he's still successful, which is wild, right? He's got new people coming in the door all the time, whereas the NFL, you have some changes, but you have your same superstars that kind of get locked in. But he's Saban's thing was coaching. If they were bringing you in to coach, it was because they liked you and they thought you could adapt to their system, not come in with ideas and try to change the whole thing.
That's right.
He didn't let players change the whole thing. He didn't let coaches change the whole thing. He said, hey, you know, I've done a pretty good job of winning. I think you can adapt to us instead of 100 people adapting to you.
Saban, talk about process. Trust the system, right?
And, you know, having also, it's great too. I talked to Ryan Brand at tournaments and coaches here and there. Not a lot, but I'm never afraid to, you know, bounce a little bit of ideas and pick their brains a little bit. Nobody gives away big secrets, and there's not a ton of big secrets, but it's just like, you know, I think at the end of the day, when we can all have a drink together, hang out a little bit after paintball, you do learn. There's always something to learn that you can implement in.
Always.
100%.
Always.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Rarely do I go to a practice with another team that has a really good coach that I don't learn some things.
Same.
Rarely.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same from you. It's just, you know, hey, a little bit of differences that you pick up. Sometimes it can be fun. Sometimes it can be needed. And sometimes it doesn't work for you, but it works for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great nugget. Hopefully people will listen to what you just said, because that's important. You know, I think a lot of teams, when they go to, and we talk about this a lot, like when you're going to schedule a practice, if you're a coach, you want to schedule that practice with another team that has a coach, so that you can be on the same page with one person instead of trying to convince that other team that you're playing. You got to then convince that 8 to 10 guys, hey, this is why this thing that we're doing is important. This is what we're trying to get from this. And then you got to sell them on what you already know needs to happen. So playing another team that has a coach is a big deal. Obviously, all of the 20 pro teams have coaches, and so that's less of a challenge, unless it's the Russians. And then sometimes you have to convince them that you want to do what you're going to do, and they're going to either do it or they can go to another field. And that's they're the only ones I've ever practiced with. They're like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, okay.
If you're a divisional, find a least biased person you know and tell them to give up all of their free time to go coach for nothing. It'll help you.
Yeah, right.
It really will.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
No, I appreciate you guys. I'm not too much of the hype man. I've always been somebody that kind of hides in the shadows in the background, and, you know, team-oriented guy. So I guess the biggest thing is when you have a team that's going good for anybody, professionals or divisionals, you know, your role is your role. If everybody can handle that and everybody can accept that, it'll make life easier. It makes life easier on your coach. And if you win, you win. You know, I've been the guy that hasn't played at all and won tournaments, and, you know, you're excited. It sucks that you go through all that gruelingness and the daunting practices and whatnot, but there is, you know, a couple hours at time where if you're playing or you're not playing, you go back, and when you win, it's a memory that lasts a lifetime, right? So, you know, play your part.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Great. All right, buddy. Well, we're really excited to see this next evolution of Houston Heat. That's going to be a new young system.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm gonna use that. I like it.
I wrote that down too.
Yeah. We keep all these notes, just so you know, Ryan, when we have you back on after you guys win an event, we have all these notes that we'll go back and touch so that we can so that we can, when we connect, we can say, okay, last time we talked to you, you mentioned these things, you've now won an event. So let's talk about what worked, what didn't, what'd you scrap, what'd you keep. And what's cool is actually the next part that we're going to talk about after we drop you off is kind of where our show is going. And we can share some of that now. If you do win an event, like when you come back or are in a championship, I should say win, right? Because that's your expectation. When you are in a championship match, we're going to bring those matches in and we're going to invite the coaches here and there. in, and we're going to break down games together and talk about, some things you wish you would have, even if you win, there's still mistakes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Talk about things you wish you would have done a little bit differently. And what's cool is we'll be able to have some open dialogue because the game's already been played, right? We're not giving anything away. It's just, but that's kind of the direction of our show. Less this like interviewee stuff and more just talking about paintball.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the plan is to get one. So when we do, call me back up. I'll run through it with you.
Won't have to call you. I'll just send you a text right there because I would Instagram you, but you wouldn't respond for like 6 months until you go back on Safari and log in. I think that's how I tried to reach out to you was via Instagram.
Probably. Who knows?
Oh no, I got your number from Diego. That's how I reached out to you.
There it is.
Yes. Yeah. All right, buddy. Thanks again and good luck, man. We're, like I said, really excited to see what you do with Houston Heat.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, appreciate
Best of luck, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate all you guys do and have a great night. And thanks for letting me be on the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for
Have
coming.
a good one. Be safe.
Take it easy. Yep.
What a fun guy, man.
Oh, dude, yeah. I love his attitude. I love his approach to all this. I'm really excited, right? As a fan of Houston Heat, right? I'm really excited to see what he does with them. He actually, Houston Heat came to the field Prime Paintball in Alabama a couple of years ago, and I got to sit back and watch. I remember he was walking around with this like old steel military helmet and shirtless, walking around and coaching. And it cracked me up, but I loved watching the process. I loved watching the interaction between him and the rest of the team, and you can see why they were successful.
His mentality is great.
Yeah,
it's great.
He's got the right one.
Yeah, he's going in with this really, I don't want to say soft approach because I don't think that's probably the right descriptor, but he's going in with this, idea that we need to get back to fun and understanding that, his group doesn't need all of those repetitions, right? What I call like wasted points, right? Playing points just for the sake of playing points and really trying to focus his group on just repairing a few small deficiencies. I mean, they're all obviously really good. So yeah, man, that was cool. And it was a little like I've had good conversations with Ryan in the past. He's really a very intuitive guy.
Yeah, you pick up on that pretty quickly, actually, right? He's very laid back. He's very open, right? He's not hiding anything, and he's going to tell you what he's thinking, And I appreciate that in people. I'm excited to get to know him a little bit better this season. So,
same.
Speaking of the rest of the season, should we talk about the rest of the season of the Coaches Show?
Yes. And I know we kind of started the show this way, and I, made a post on our social medias talking about how you and I have not loved what we've been doing in the off season because we know who we are and the things that we want to talk about and the type of content we want to consume. And we haven't been providing that just simply because we really haven't had games to talk about. And we didn't want to just pull a bunch of old games in and talk about things from World Cup and that kind of thing. So it's really going to kick off next week, right? So next week's show is going to be, we have not two new guests, but we have two guests coming in. So Shane Pastana and Kevin Bredthauer. And we are going to do a sort of postseason wrap up. We're going to talk about all the moves that were made, not individually. We're more just going to talk about from a team perspective, what that group is potentially going to look like. And then we're going to make our picks and I are going to go live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and we are going to do about a 30-minute virtual field walk with the Las Vegas layout. And then we'll leave about 15 minutes of space at the end of our field walk session to answer a few questions. Obviously, we won't be able to answer every question that's asked, but we'll do our best to answer most of them. And then, of course, if you post them in our social media, or more importantly, if you will post them in the comments on the YouTube channel, we'll go back and we'll answer as many of those questions as we can. Keep in mind that Wednesday, he and I also have a Zoom meeting with our teams, and then literally we'll be heading out to the tournament or to layout practice the next day. So
that's right.
It's going to be a lot going on, but we'll do our best to answer all of those questions. And then on the following Tuesday, after the event is over, we will not have a show premiere at 10 a.m. We will have a 7 p.m. live show.
That's right.
So, and we know Tuesdays are really tough for live shows. You have Spick and Span and Play the Game, and we do not want to get in the way of those. We're not trying to create any kind of weird competition thing there. Tuesdays work really well for us. And so unfortunately on that night, that's when we're going to do it. So Tuesday after the Las Vegas NXL, which I believe is March the 12th, we are going to go live at 7 p.m. again on Facebook, Instagram, and the Major League YouTube channel. And we are going to do a full event breakdown where we are going to talk about semi-pro and pro finals matches. We will more than likely have at least one of the coaches from the finals with us, and we will bring their game in, and we are going to analyze that game. We'll be stopping, talking. I have no idea how long that show will last, since it'll be the very first one of those we're doing. But we're so excited.
Yeah.
We're so excited to geek out, right? Like this has been all of this stuff that we've been doing has literally been kind of a crescendo to this moment where we're going to finally get to talk about some real analytical paintball stuff. So again, thank you for kind of sticking around through the off season. So our standard show schedule is going to change a little bit too. We'll kind of talk about this more as we go forward, but the 10 a.m. Premiere shows that you're seeing on YouTube now will go to every other Tuesday, and then the off Tuesdays, or it could change. We may do a different day, just depending on what the schedule looks like. We're going to go live. So at least twice a month, we will go live. Again, bringing in film with a coach, and we're going to be talking through games that occurred at the event, really until we're bored talking about it. So that's going to be happening every other week. We'll go live and be doing that.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it, but what was the quote? Growth is never mere chance. It is the result of forces working together. So we got a lot of people, Ryan is a force. And by the way, thank you, Ryan, for everything you're doing with this show. The MLPB staff, Jake, Alex, Kevin, all of you guys have been great. But really, to you, the listeners and the watchers, thank you for sticking around. Like Ryan said, thank you for sticking around. We appreciate all the support. We hear all your comments. We listen to them. We try to go back and respond. But, just remember, this is really for you. This is for the paintball community. This is for trying to grow the sport. We really want to give back and just help. And because in the long run, this ultimately is making Ryan and I better too. So we appreciate your patience and look forward to doing more for you.
And ultimately doing the kind of content we like to talk about.
We like to watch.
Yes, we are. Again,
yeah.
I wish you guys could have heard some of the phone conversations we've been having leading up to this, because we've been really giddy, about the idea and proposition of being able to really dig into some game film and even the field walk thing. I don't love a lot of times to do those kind of virtual things, but we want to do it because we want to add that service to you guys. And give you some pointers. Also, some of the things that we'll talk about during that field walk will be some things we want you to look at practice. Like the first, So, and Mike is really, really, really good at these things. And I'm so excited that he's going to get to drive most of those shows. We'll talk about like, hey, when you're setting up your practice structure, these are kind of some spots you want to look at. How many different places can you shoot this guy? How many places can you shoot this guy? How many places can you shoot this guy? And then documenting it, making sure you have some grids set up and I don't even mind sharing those. I'll share mine. I'm sure Mike would share some of his too. We'll share some grids with you to help you to prepare your practice and those kind of things as you get ready for Las Vegas. But we're finally to the point that we can start talking about this stuff.
That's right. And it's all theory. Remember, it's all theory, and you have to test theories. So that's what the virtual field walk's for. So.
Yes, sorry. I got so excited about talking about what we're going to talk about that I forgot to mention why I don't necessarily love it. And that is why, because we don't want you creating assumptions that your players sometimes, if they get an assumption in their head when you get to practice, sometimes it's hard to get them out of it.
That's right.
They get so stuck into it that they don't, they put themselves in a little box instead of being free and creative at practice, because that's where they need to be creative. That's where they need to make those mistakes and get shot in weird places so they know it's there and don't get surprised at a tournament, right? When you get to an event and people walk off and they go, I didn't know that shot was there. You didn't prepare correctly.
Yeah, you didn't prepare right. So
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it. And don't forget about the Summit Awards, Sunday, March 10th at the Sahara in Las Vegas. Go get your tickets. They're only $15. It's going to be a heck of a time. I'm looking forward to that.
Same. Yeah. So Monday, the next day, 11 o'clock, March the 11th at noon, you and I are going to be doing a free intro to coaching class. Keep in mind, that's going to be really dumbed down. We're going to talk a little bit about a few key things, and that's really all we're going to have time for, and then kind of open it up to some discussion. Right. But then for sure, we are doing a coaches clinic at the NXL Texas. Once the details start to roll around for that, we'll talk about that a little more.
Another thing I'm really excited about.
Yeah. The intro to coaching class, that's for anybody who wants to come. I don't know that you have to sign up. We'll find out and we'll let you guys know next week. I don't know that there's a sign up for that, but it is going to be noon. So hopefully we'll be done with the NXL roundtable at that time, which I believe is going to be at 10 o'clock. So remember that the Summit industry show is open to the public on Monday. Again, not the whole show, but there will be a section that is open to the public on Monday, and you can hang out. There's going to be an NXL roundtable with Tom Cole, Jason Trozen. They're going to be discussing some things for 2025 that may change. What they're really doing is getting the pulse from the players. So if you want to be a keyboard warrior, go to this meeting so you can be a face-to-face warrior, not a keyboard warrior.
I agree. It's exciting. Okay.
All right, man. Are we done here?
Again, yeah, I think we are. But I do once again thank you to Major League Paintball, Alex Sorensen, Tom Cole, Jake Jones. We just welcome. By the way, Jake, congratulations! Just welcomed a new family member. Be safe, take care of the wife. Remember, happy wife, happy life, and you've created a life, so protect it with all you have. So,
yeah, congratulations, Jake. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure to like, comment. Please leave a comment if you like the direction we're going with the lives. And obviously, I know most of you are going to like the fact that we're going to the content that we really like. But hopefully we are taking you in the direction you want to go. Please leave a comment for us about that. If there's anything specific you want to know as we do this virtual field walk and as we get into game breakdown, just leave us a comment. We do read those. We do try to respond to those. And then again, make sure to subscribe to Major League Paintball. Share also the show. Let your friends know if you like it. Let them know that we're doing this. And as always, be responsible.
Be responsible.
You know what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100% because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.